You hate government, one of them libertarian types, or maybe you just can't stand the president, gun grabbers, or warmongers. Me too. That's why I invented LibertyStickers.com. Well, Rick owns it now, and I didn't make up all of them, but still, if you're driving around and want to tell everyone else how wrong their politics are, there's only one place to go. LibertyStickers.com has got your bumper covered. Left, right, libertarian, empire, police, state, founders quotes, central banking. Yes, bumper stickers about central banking. Lots of them. And, well, everything that matters. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck. All right, y'all, Scott Horton Show, scotthorton.org for the archives. Sign up for the podcast feed there. Follow me on Twitter at Scott Horton Show. Okay, introducing our good friend, Andrew Cockburn. Yes, Patrick's brother. And he writes for harpers.org most of the time. He's the author of the great book Kill Chain, all about the drone wars. And this is called Acceptable Losses, Aiding and Abetting the Saudi Slaughter in Yemen. Welcome back to the show, Andrew. How are you doing?
I'm great. Great to be with you.
Good, good. Very happy to have you back on the show here. And so, you know, one thing I really like about this article is, and you always do this, you go way back and give me some better context than anybody else about, you talk about the first time that the Saudis really, well, the first time, I don't know, within the last, half a century, I guess, that the Saudis went and really intervened in Houthi-stan, I guess, up there in where the Zaydis live in northern Yemen, and how they helped radicalize and create the Houthi political movement in reaction to their intervention in the first place here. Is that right? Sometime in the, early 70s, you say?
No, 79.
Late 70s.
Yeah, quickly what happened, it's a Saudi policy, it seems to be, to when they feel they have a problem with extremists, with radicals, fundamentalists, or people even more fundamental than the ruling regime, they export it. They go and make it someone else's problem. So there was this guy who'd led a very bloody takeover of the Grand Mosque in Mecca with the aim of overthrowing the Saudi royal family, been killed. The revolt was put down, lots of people killed, lots of people beheaded. This guy had survived, so the Saudis say, okay, the Saudi rulers say, okay, we'll let you out of jail. You go down to Yemen, and there are all these Zaydis in northern Yemen who we don't like because they're not our brand of Islam. And so you go down and set up a school there and teach people to think right. And so that's what happened. This school then becomes a magnet for proto-Al-Qaeda types, preaching Wahhabi extremism. As you said, the Houthis, the locals react, turn a bit to Iran, not in a hard way, but just apply for teachers and, textbooks and so forth. And we're off to the races. So now, the Saudis say, oh, there's this Iranian outpost, and fast forward to, a couple of years ago, the Saudis say we can't stand this any longer. The Iranians are on our southern border. We have to take action. And with American endorsement, they start bombing this poor country, into the Stone Age.
All right, now, how much, and you talk about this in your article, what percentage of what's going on here is all just about domestic politics inside Saudi Arabia as opposed to the implementation of any sensible policy in terms of even limiting the power of the Houthis?
Well, very good question. I mean, a lot of it is to do, as we've had this transfer of power in Saudi Arabia. 2 years ago, the old king, or Abdullah, been around for a while, died, succeeded by his brother, who was younger, was a mere 79 when he took the throne, but has the problem of dementia. I mean, he just doesn't really know who he is or where he is most of the time. He has a favorite son, young Prince Mohammed, who he's basically given total power to, has taken total power, which is unusual in Saudi Arabia. Usually the old gents, sit around and come to decisions fairly by consensus, which means they don't do anything too extreme. This guy's in charge, but he's got rivals, including his cousin. I won't sort of spatter you with names because they're nearly all called Muhammad, who, could be his rival, is the crown prince. So the way he can deal with it is by taking action, by, launching a war, which actually screws up the other guy's job, which is counterintelligence, because this war has been a big boost for Al Qaeda. So it's been, like most wars, and I'm very glad you asked this, it's really a lot. I can't give you a percentage, but a huge proportion of it is to do with domestic politics.
And now, I guess it makes sense if you're a defense minister that, hey, here's an enemy and I want to destroy him, so I'm going to bomb him. And yet, that sure hasn't been working over the last, 18 months now.
Certainly not. I mean, they always fall into this. I mean, not just the Saudis. I mean, the US too, the Israelis, everyone who has a air force likes to use it, and likes to use the toys because they're all very exciting and they cost a lot of money, and you might as well justify it. And they always seem to believe the BS, that with this new super duper high tech precision bomb, we can absolutely do what bombing has always failed to do so far, which is hit the right enemy at the right time. And needless to say, or certainly as I explained in the piece, Saudi Arabia has been neck deep in American arms salesmen for decades, including a big chunk of, our military sits there permanently, basically as a permanent sales force, has gotten them to buy, a huge arsenal of the very latest, whiz-bang precision weapons. So, and so they were eager to use it. I think they probably believed it, that this was somehow going to do the trick. And yet, as you mentioned, for 18 months, they've been bombing away, bombing just anything and everything, down to donkey carts, bridges, donkey carts, power plants, whatever, you name it.
Markets full of women and children in the middle of the afternoon.
Exactly. Women and children in the middle of the afternoon, wedding parties. Anytime there's a crowd of Yemenis, basically. They've been bombing Yemenis wherever they could find them. 1,000-year-old buildings. It's done them no good. Well, it's had two big effects, which is it's reduced this poor country to an even greater state of humanitarian disaster. And it means that any Yemeni who maybe thought of accommodation with the Saudis before now really hates the Saudis, and also really hates the United States, because they not dumb and they know who makes all this possible, which is, us selling them, all the guns, bombs, and missiles.
Yeah, man. And, of course, a big part of how the Houthis got too big for their britches in the first place, that the Saudis felt so threatened by them, was just because America kept paying Saleh, the previous dictator, to fight Al-Qaeda, but he just kept using all the money and guns to fight the Houthis. And every time he picked a fight with them, he lost and made them stronger to the point. And now when America overthrew Saleh, he went and took most of the army divisions with him and went and made an alliance with the Houthis. So that's what really doubled their power there.
Exactly. I mean, you've got it in one. That's what's happened. And it's somehow, it's amazing, we shouldn't be amazed by now, that how bad U.S. intelligence is. You could have seen this coming, and they just didn't. The other point, thing about this whole disgusting spectacle I'd like to point out is just how sort of casual about it. When I talked to a lot of people in the administration about this, some very, very senior people, and they just weren't. I mean, they pretended to be upset and bothered by it, but you could tell they just weren't. They just didn't care. They'll get all hot and bothered about Syria because that's a big power confrontation, must be the Russians and so forth. They, hey, it's convenient, the Saudis, the Saudis asked us, we'll do them a favor. They wanted to destroy this miserable country. Sure, no, not a big problem. We're sorry they're doing it, but we're not going to do anything to stop it. That was, to me, the most horrifying and cruel aspect of it all. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they felt no shame, apparently, whatsoever, telling the New York Times that, we needed to placate the Saudis because of the Iran deal. And then that was it. They didn't even pretend one other excuse about America's national interests here whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I told, Congressman Ted Lieu, who's a very decent guy from California, he's been making a fuss about this, or trying to, from fairly early on. And, he got all sorts of classified briefings, dogs and pony shows at the Pentagon, to try and find out why we were doing this. And I asked him, I said, well, what did you get? What's the explanation? He said, well, I think it's because the Saudis asked us. Just that. No, not like we need to do this because, or, some big important reason to go out and kill a bunch of women and children. No, just say the Saudis asked us a favor. Why not?
Man. And then, isn't it the case, can you report, Andrew, that the Saudi military is a giant joke? It's all completely run by foreigners and especially American contractors, and that the only role that actual Saudis play in any of it is flying the fighter jets, because that's
right.
a prestigious position for a princeling.
Exactly. And by the way, I was told that they like to fly the fighter jets, but it's the guy in the back seat who sort of does all the sort of tricky technical stuff and, aiming the bombs and everything like that. And that's considered kind of boring. You can't impress your girlfriend with like that. So that's often, not always, but that's often like Pakistani mercenaries who get that job. But
interesting. You know what? Let me stop you right there for a second, because I talked with former Ambassador Dan Simpson, and I forget who he was the ambassador to or what, but he's a newspaper man now, and he told me that he had heard, I forgot if he had written this in his article, but he told me on the show that he had heard that there were Americans flying in the back seat of those F-15s.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I have heard that. I wasn't able to nail that down, but
You had heard that as well, though?
I'd heard it, yeah.
Okay, so that's double the rumor, audience, so take that for what it's worth. Man, we really need to find out whether that's true.
I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical only because the Americans would be, it could be American, wouldn't be serving American Air Force people. It would be contractor mercenaries. It could be true. I mean, they'd be kind of terrified that one of them gets shot down and turns up on a Houthi propaganda film. But
Eugene
I guess anything's possible these days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And of course, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if we got to refuel them, we got to pick their targets for them, like the LA Times says that, all our guys are doing all the work for them. Why not hold their hands literally all the way to the targets?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I was very sure if you look at, there are all these job sites, you can go online. And if you just Google, Saudi Arabia F-15 maintenance, you get, page after page, offering good money for Americans to go out and maintain the planes that are doing the bombing. So it couldn't work. The bottom line is this is our war. It could not be happening without us. So we are part of the alliance. It's pretty disgusting.
Well, Marcy Wheeler was pointing out there was that PR bit that ran earlier this week about how, the Americans are pulling out of Saudi, and sort of implying that this was in reaction to recent atrocities in Yemen and that Obama was mad about it or something. But then Marcy pointed out, no, this is report. If you read all the way through the article, they're saying that they pulled some of the advisors out in June, and it wasn't in protest over anything. It was just a reshuffling of nothing. But they try to make it sound like, America finally, decided that morality counted for something when it comes to killing Yemenis.
No. As I point out in the article, and other people have too, America has, apart from all the role, supplying the weapons and maintaining the planes and maybe even helping fly the planes, the other important thing they've done, they've provided total diplomatic cover all the way through. So when anyone tries to say anything at the UN or anything like that, the Americans stop it. Right. I asked, I was talking to the senior official, the official interview at the State Department, and I said, well, why did you do that? Just when they'd stopped one proposed investigation. He said, well, because the Yemenis asked us to, meaning the Saudi puppet president, who doesn't really represent anyone. And I said, well, do you usually do what he says? And he sort of smirked. He said, well, when we agree with him, yes. It's a very sorry, disgusting episode. And there's like a little flutter now in the press, but because the administration isn't, compare the rhetoric on Yemen with the rhetoric on Syria, and it's night and day.
Right.
They don't care. Yeah,
they don't talk. It hadn't been mentioned in the presidential campaign whatsoever, and
right,
so therefore it doesn't matter at all, because that's the only thing that matters this year.
Right. Yeah, if Donald Trump was smart, he would, which he's not really. He would point out that that hey, why are we it'd be a good point for him, but he's too thick to notice that.
Yeah, he ain't the only one either. And now, okay, I'm sorry, I know you have to go, but let me ask you one more thing. This war is really backfiring in the sense that the Houthis now have invaded Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, how, and there's a city, I don't know the name, right on the other side of the Saudi border there where the Yemenis are firing down from the cliffside, and I don't know, maybe they'll even take that city.
Well, right. Well, they've driven most of the people out. I mean, this is hugely embarrassing for the Saudis. I mean, that they can't even, and it's backfiring, on the ruler, on the young prince who's running things, because he started this war and now he's losing Saudi territory. The other thing is this war is proving, they've got huge amounts of money, as we know, but this war is having a serious effect on the Saudi treasury. But before I go, I got to mention one other thing that's just happened, which is people should know, which is, all the way through the war, the one institution in Yemen that's sort of remained neutral is the central bank, which has basically kept the economy functioning. And so they've been able to import food, to the Houthi areas. And it's the one thing that's sort of still kept working. The Saudi puppet, the Saudis have just got their puppet, this President Hadi, to declare that he's going to sort of, because he's the legal ruler, international ruler, to cut off the central bank and say it doesn't represent Yemen, which will mean the central bank will be out of business for issuing letters of credit and so forth for importing food. This is going to starve millions of people, and it's just happened. And if the United States doesn't, gets off its ass and do something about this, then, it's an even further disgrace. Just I thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you did. Talk about burying the lead, really, that brand new kind of breaking news there. And, we've been wondering, because people said, hey, this is the poorest country in the Middle East. We're bombing, we're blockading them. Everyone, more than a year ago, all the NGOs were warning that these people are on the brink of famine and starvation. Yeah. And I thought maybe we'd have had hundreds of thousands, and in fact, maybe we have had hundreds of thousands die of deprivation. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I see what you mean, that there's been one saving grace in there and one kind of workaround around the blockade in terms of international trade and food here. And now that is even being cut off. I mean, that is it's genocide. This is war crimes like what the Nazis did, is what Barack Obama is doing right now to these people.
Don't you think? Yeah, I agree.
Unbelievable. So, but, at least he's a Democrat, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, right. Lesser evil, lesser evil.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, man, you do great work. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Scott. Always a pleasure.
All right, y'all. That is the great Andrew Cockburn. He wrote the book Kill Chain. You got to read that. And this is at Harper's, Acceptable Losses: Aiding and Abetting the Saudi Slaughter in Yemen. That's the Scott Horton Show. ScottHorton.org for the website. 4,000-something interviews going back to 2003 there. Sign up for the podcast feed. Help support at ScottHorton.org/donate. Anybody who donates $50 or more, you get the new Rothbard book. Lost Essays from 1967 and 68. They're really interesting, really good stuff on Vietnam and lots of stuff. It's called Never a Dull Moment. ScottHorton.org/donate for that. And follow me on Twitter at Scott Horton Show. Thanks, y'all. Hey, Scott Horton here to tell you about this great new book by Michael Swanson, The War State. In The War State, Swanson examines how Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy both expanded and fought to limit the rise of the new national security state after World War II. If this nation is ever to live up to its creed of liberty and prosperity for everyone, we are going to have to abolish the empire. Know your enemy. Get The War State by Michael Swanson. It's available at your local bookstore or at Amazon.com in Kindle or in paperback. Just click the book in the right margin at ScottHorton.org or TheWarState.com.
I love Bitcoin, but there's just something incredibly satisfying about having real, fine silver in your pocket. That's why commodity discs are so neat. They're 1-ounce rounds of fine silver with a QR code on the back. Just grab your smartphone's QR reader, scan the coin, and you'll instantly get the silver spot price in Federal Reserve notes and Bitcoin. And if you donate $100 to the Scott Horton Show, he'll send you one. Learn more at Facebook.com/commoditydiscs. CommodityDiscs.com.